Are you awakening or are you going crazy? I'll put your mind at rest. I'm not going to string you along here for a long time. You're awakening, but it can feel as if you are going crazy and losing your mind. I've been helping people with their awakening for many, many years. I've gone through my own awakening, and I know that at times you can feel so many different emotions. You feel isolated, right? You feel separate, even though you've kind of gone through this awakening where you had a glimpse or a realization that you're not separate to everything that there is this oneness, and that you're not really a separate person. There still feels like a separation, like you know something that everyone else doesn't. It's like one of those scenes in a movie when everybody's moving at a certain speed and you're just sitting there or standing there observing as the world kind of moves around you. So it's very common to feel like you're going crazy, like you're going insane. And I'm here to tell you that it's okay to feel that way. And whatever you're feeling, whatever emotions you're experiencing, and whatever you're thinking, whatever you're observing, all of it is okay and is supposed to happen. But initially that doesn't help because you have that sense of separation. And really this idea of going crazy or going insane is really linked to being different to everybody else. Because prior to an awakening, you've kind of gone along with the dream, right, that everyone else has. I'm a separate person, moving in the universe, and I can affect and control everything. And if I get enough stuff, or if I get enough outcomes that I want, and I fulfill this deep, ingrained sense of lack within me, I will finally attain happiness. And that's the dream, right? That's what you're awakening from, or have awakened from. Now, depending on the depth of your awakening, or how many awakenings you've had, because it's an ongoing process, it never ends, right? Every kind of time you feel you've had some sort of breakthrough, oh, I finally get it, that's a sign that it's a true awakening. When it feels final, it feels like, the final breakthrough, the final seeing, that's a true sign of awakening. But there is no final seeing. It's constantly unfolding. But depending on how deep your awakening is, you may sometimes flip-flop between the two and have this feeling of everything's okay. I feel oneness with everything. I know there is no doer. There is not two. I'm firmly established in being and this sense of non-duality. But then sometimes you can fall back in to separation. It could be something that triggers you, like somebody says something, or somebody attacks you, or something doesn't quite go, inverted commas, your way. Before you know it, you feel like you've fallen back into separation. But regardless of whether it's a glimpse that you've had of your true nature, or whether it's something that's more established, there can initially feel like a separation, right? Ironically, that you are separate from everyone else, that you've kind of seen something, that you've woken up from the dream. So let's just first off define what we mean by awakening, because it means different things to different people. When I speak of awakening, I literally mean awakening from the dream of an illusory separate self, or waking up from the dream of illusion that you believe yourself to be a separate person. So awakening merely means you've seen and have woken up to your true nature, that you are consciousness or awareness, or whatever you choose to call it, spirit. That's all that there is, and you are that. It may have been a glimpse. It may have been a fraction of a second. Could have been something that happened to you when you were out walking, or on meditation, or during a dream. But once you've seen that, it cannot be unseen, and it can put you into a tailspin. it can change your life completely. You can start off by feeling that, well, look, I now know something and nobody else does. You might try or might have tried talking to people about it. Family members, friends, partners, loved ones, they don't get it. If they've not seen, it's impossible to make them see. Which is why sometimes here on my YouTube channel, I get comments from people like, what the heck's this guy talking about? This is insane, right? So from the outside in, truth seekers and truth finders sound insane because you cannot force people to see what you've seen. And again, this can be alarming, right? It can set the stomach churning and set the heart beating faster. Like, oh my God, like, did I make this up? Did I imagine this? Am I losing my mind? Like society at large and my friends, my family, and my loved ones, I'm not looking at them in the same way. They're looking at me with different eyes now. There feels like some sort of distance. When I've tried to speak to them about it, they look at me weird. They think there's something wrong with me. Now, of course, traditionally, these kind of things would indicate that you're going haywire, like it's an alarm bell, right? Something's going wrong, like you're going off the beaten track of society and so-called accepted wisdom. Now, in certain traditions, in Eastern traditions, in Buddhist traditions, when people would have awakenings like this, they would be carefully nurtured and looked after. They would be brought into the safe, comforting and supportive and protective environment of a monastery while they could assimilate what they'd seen. And then only when they'd kind of embodied that and really found peace with it in the human body mind, were they then released back into community, so to speak. We don't have that benefit now. I mean, you could literally watch a video on YouTube and have some spark of awakening, and suddenly you're expected to go back to your job and speak to Bob and Jane about getting the spreadsheet ready and let's get this Zoom meeting in order. Like, it's not the same. So what I'm trying to do in this teaching here is give you an insight into the kind of things you might experience, what you might feel, what you might sense, and what you might think, just to tell you that it's okay that for any of these things and more that I don't even talk about here to occur and arise. So you might experience this sense of separation. That's one of them. You might feel that you're separate to everybody else, even though you believe that it's all oneness and there's only consciousness. As a body mind, as a separate person, you feel, well, this is not right now because I've seen something that other people can't see. So you can feel alienated. Something else that can happen is you feel disconnected with your prior life. Like maybe you had hobbies, maybe you were very driven in your career, you had a clear path you were aiming towards. There were certain things that you used to do for hobbies, for interest, you had various desires. And what you can find is very quickly those start to fall away. Because you've changed, the game has changed. You're in this game, this dream game of, I'm a separate person, I have a sense of lack within me, and I'm going to fill that lack by getting money, stuff, experiences, relationships, and sensations. When you've changed that game completely, none of those little strategies work anymore. You've seen through that. And even if you don't fully understand what's gone on with your awakening, and maybe you've not fully embodied what you've understood, it still is a fact that those games, those going out to get those tokens or fulfilling those desires, you've seen through that, you know it won't work. So almost overnight, every relationship that you have has changed because the way that you view the world has changed. So every way in which you interact with every person changes. That's big, that's huge. But not only that, every way in which you interact with every circumstance in your life has also changed because the rules have changed. You've changed the game. You haven't just changed the rules and the pieces on the board. You've literally stepped out of that game completely. Now, we can argue that maybe you've stepped into another game. We can get into that conversation. But the idea is you've stepped out of this game of materialism and being a separate self. You've stepped out of that. So the former rules just no longer apply. So the idea of, maybe the idea of going out to a nightclub has no longer has an appeal to you, or your hobby where you used to go out and, see other people or compete in some way or try and gain status in society. All these things change irrevocably, so irreversibly overnight. So the way you interact with people can change. And the way that you interact with the world changes. So those two things alone, there's a third one I'll talk about in a minute, but those two things alone, from the outside looking in, John's changed. Jane's changed. She's different now. The way she talks to me, what she's thinking about. I don't see her as often. I don't see him as often. He's not out and about. He's not doing this. Now, the natural reaction to this can often be a retraction into yourself. So you kind of remove yourself from the world, from experiences, from situations, and from people. Now, as I say, historically, this was done specifically, it was done purposely by moving people to a monastery to help protect them and sustain them and nurture them through this journey. But now this is something that kind of happens, or happens to yourself without you really knowing. Now, you might feel that you're doing it consciously. I'm withdrawing from the world, withdrawing from these hobbies, from interactions and so on. You almost, for some people, you can have this like hermit existence. And for some people, you feel that's a choice. You might feel that you took that choice to try and process what's happened and try and reestablish that sense of what you are and how you move in the world with this new knowledge. For other people, it doesn't really feel like a choice at all. It's more, well, I'm incapable of moving in the world now. And this is what happened to me for a number of months, is I could not operate at a human level for a number of months. I couldn't engage with people. I couldn't do my job. I was incapable of really going outside and moving in the way that I used to move. So to me, it wasn't let me take stock and take a step back and try and assimilate what's happened. It felt like it was enforced upon me. Okay, so those are two things that from the outside looking in, people will say, well, you're losing your mind. The way that you interact with the world has completely changed, and the way that you interact with people has changed. Now, the third thing that I said I'll talk about is the way that you interact with yourself changes. And this is the most serious one of all, because the voice that goes on in your head that you observe and you listen to has the biggest impact of all on your perception of what the world is, what your relationship with other people is, and what you believe yourself to be. Now, prior to any awakening, that conversation probably was predominantly around attainment of things. I feel a sense of lack. I'm not worth it. I'm not worthy. I'm not loved. I feel dissatisfied with reality. I must always be changing and improving things, getting more, improving the situation, getting a better job, a better car, a better house, a better relationship, better physical body, better intellect, better standing in society, more money, and so on. And the internal conversation was predominantly around those things prior to awakening. After awakening, it can be any number of things. That can still happen. You may still see thoughts arising because, again, they're not you. Thoughts are just like a shooting star. You don't control them. Did you ask for that shooting star? Did you ask for it to rain? Did you ask for the rings to appear around Saturn? No, you didn't. And it's the same with a thought. You're not involved in that. You're not at the table of decisions for that. They just happen. but you can get intertwined in these and entangled in them by stepping over the line of from observing into feeling that you've initiated them, or even worse, judging them. Now, this happened to me during early stages of awakening, that because you've seen something, because you've glimpsed something, there's this sense that, well, now that I know my true nature is consciousness or awareness, and there is no separate person and everything is oneness, surely every decision, every thought and every action and everything that happens in this life should be shaped by that, shouldn't it? Because otherwise, and this is what you think, because otherwise if it's not shaped by that, then I'm doing something wrong. Or even worse, you say to yourself, if it's not shaped by that, maybe what I saw wasn't true, or I didn't really see what I thought I saw, or experience what I thought I experienced. So you start putting all this weight on yourself. Like, I've seen this, I know this thing, I've had this awakening. Why am I still arguing with people? Why am I still getting mad? Why am I still swearing when somebody cuts me up on the freeway or on the motorway? Why am I still, getting mad at my kids or my dog? Or why am I not just dancing around and everything's cupcakes and rainbows? So you can get trapped in this thinking about thoughts. Is this thought and judging? Oh, I'm judging this. That's bad. But so you end up making judgments about your judging, and you get trapped in this cycle of thought. I've seen this thing and I know this is true, this consciousness, and I know that there's a bigger thing here, and I know that I'm not a separate person. I've seen this, but now I'm doing this. Oh no. And you go and you get trapped in this seemingly never-ending cycle of, I've seen this, therefore shouldn't I be reacting in this way, but now I've reacted in this way, and that makes me feel bad, and I'm judging that. And if I judge other people or judge circumstances, I'm now judging the judging of that. And you feel like you can't escape. You feel like you're letting yourself down, that because of what you've seen and what you now know with your awakening, you feel like you should be behaving in a different way or thinking in a certain way. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is, frankly, the closest that you will get to some kind of insanity in awakening, because you're primarily, in this particular kind of pattern, you're primarily operating and living in the mind. Even though you've awakened to a certain extent and you've realized that you are not the mind, you've slipped back in to thought patterns, and it's crept up on you. You're recognizing thoughts about worldly things and things like that, and you think that having a spiritual thought is somehow different. Right? So I'm thinking, I saw the thought, I made a judgment about that person. Oh, that's not really in alignment with my awakening. So maybe I should judge less. Yeah, I've definitely done that wrong. But what you don't realize as this is going on, that all of this is just thought. There's really no difference. It's a cosmic event. It's like a star. It's like a sun or a star, same thing, in space. Could be a twinkling star, could be a star that implodes, explodes in a supernova, could be a star that's a shooting star coming down to Earth, could be a star that's just born. It doesn't matter. They're just thoughts. They're not you, and you didn't create them. So you can experience any number of these things. We've not even spoken about the physical realm, right? Because during awakening, all kinds of physical things can happen. You can have heightened senses. I remember, walking with my dog, and I would literally hear my dog's footsteps on the grass for the first time after awakening, because there was no mental noise going on. There wasn't this constant thought train, and I was present in the present moment. I was taking everything in. I could hear my dog's footsteps for the first time in my life. And it can feel to a certain degree like you've got superpowers. You have a wider field of vision. You may experience that. You might experience buzzing or a hum or change to your sleep patterns, digestion changes, not able to digest food or problems with your digestion, physical ailments, headaches, the shakes, involuntary movements, seeing things out of the corner of your eyes. All of these things can happen. Physical things as well. So when you add all these things up, physical craziness going on, living in thought patterns and constantly get trapped in thoughts, interacting with people in a completely different way because the rules have changed and the game has changed. You're no longer in that game. Interacting with the world in a different way and viewing it through different eyes. Of course it looks insane. Of course it looks and feels insane to people on the outside looking in, and possibly even to you. But the truth of the matter is, if we look at the definition of insanity, people quite often say, well, that person is losing their mind. And that is what's happening. But not in a bad way, in a positive way. You are losing not your mind, because it's not your mind, it's just the mind. Like, it's not your shooting star or your supernova, it's a star, it's a mind. But you're losing that mind. You're losing the power it has over you and the connection to it that you used to have and the sway that it used to have over you. Right? That voice in your head, oh, you've got to do this because if you get this, it's going to make this better. And if you avoid that person, you should do that. And they said that, and therefore that makes me feel this way. And therefore I'm going to have to respond in this way so I can make them feel that way, which will make me feel this way, which will get me the outcome. Right? All this stuff that used to go on in the old game, there's a distance now occurring where you're over here as the observer watching this stuff happen. It's not your job to change what the mind does. It's not your job to empty the mind or affect the mind or purify it or change those crazy ass thoughts, that judgments and negative. No, don't change any of it. Don't try and change or empty or adapt or replace or do any of that. Just observe. Just observe it. Observe all of this happening. How do I, somebody had asked me, a few weeks ago, oh, I'm getting these headaches since awakening, these powerful headaches. What do I do? Nothing. Just observe them. Observe all of the phenomena that take place and realize none of it is you. None of it is caused by you. And nothing you do can shape it because there is no doer. So really, it's just trying to remember what you've seen, trying to live from your deepest known truth. Not in a sense that you judge everything that you do. Oh, I reacted in that way. That's not from my deepest known truth. For your deepest known truth that you're not a separate person and that you are just consciousness or awareness. When a judgment occurs that you did not ask for and you did not create, because it's just a thought and you don't create those, they're like the weather. Acting from your deepest known truth means you let that go. You allow it to be. You marvel at the splendor of this entire game. So you're not going crazy. You're just losing your mind.